You ever walk into the Target or a Kroger for a single carton of milk and walk out 90 minutes later with a cart full of scented candles, a snorkel, and a vague sense of shame? You wander through the aisles in a daze, hypnotized by the sheer volume of stuff you suddenly need, only to get to your car and realize you forgot the milk. This isn't a personal failing. You weren't weak. You were professionally played by a ghost from the 1950s. This zombie-like state of consumerism has a name: the Gruen Transfer. And it is a psychological weapon disguised as a floor plan. To understand it, you have to meet the guy who accidentally invented it, an Austrian architect named Victor Gruen. Back in the 50s, Gruen had this beautiful utopian dream. He wanted to save America from the isolation of the suburbs. He envisioned these gorgeous, multi-level indoor town squares. They'd have post offices, libraries, apartments, and stores, all in a beautiful, walkable, community-focused hub. In 1956, he built the first one in Minnesota, the Southdale Center. It was supposed to be a paradise. But capitalism, being capitalism, looked at his beautiful community dream and said, "Cute, we can use this to sell more blenders." Corporate chains stripped Gruen's idea for parts. They kept the confusing, labyrinthine layout, the lack of windows, the disorienting decorations, and threw out all the community stuff. The goal was no longer to create a town square. It was to deliberately get you lost. When you enter a modern supermarket or mall designed with these principles, your brain, which was on a clear mission, get milk, get out, is immediately overwhelmed. There are no straight lines, no clocks, no clear views of the exit. Your logical brain short circuits. This intentional disorientation transfers you from a directed thinking shopper into an aimless, impulse-driven wanderer. This is the Gruen transfer. It's the moment your brain gives up and says, "Fine, I live here now." Ooh, is that a giant bag of cheese puffs? The essentials like milk and eggs are always placed in the most remote, hard-to-reach corner of the store, forcing you to walk past thousands of other products. You are a rat in a maze, and the cheese is a $17 jar of artisanal olives you'll never eat. The saddest part? Victor Gruen saw what his dream had become and grew to despise it. He eventually disavowed his creation, calling modern malls shopping machines that bastardized his ideas. So next time you're standing in aisle 7, wondering how a bag of novelty socks got into your cart, just pour one out for Victor. His dream died so you could buy a 3-pound tub of mayonnaise you didn't need. There's a weird, unspoken contract we all sign when we get into an elevator. You step in, you immediately turn to face the door, you create the maximum possible distance between yourself and the other humans in the metal box, and you stare intently at the floor numbers as if they hold the secrets to the universe. It's a sacred, silent ritual. But this tiny, socially awkward space isn't just a test of your ability to avoid eye contact. It's a perfect laboratory for a deeply unsettling human glitch. It's called the bystander effect, and it's the reason being surrounded by people can sometimes be more dangerous than being alone. The concept was born from a truly horrific event in 1964. A young woman named Kitty Genovese was attacked outside her apartment building in Queens, New York. The initial and now heavily debated New York Times report claimed that 38 of her neighbors saw or heard the attack from their windows over a period of about half an hour, yet no one effectively intervened or called the police until it was too late. While the 38 silent witnesses narrative has since been challenged as an exaggeration, the event shocked the public and pushed two psychologists, Bill Blattain and John Darley, to figure out what was going on. Why didn't people help? Through a series of clever experiments, they discovered the chilling truth. It wasn't that the witnesses were all soulless monsters. It was because they were in a group. Blattain and Darley staged emergencies, like having an actor fake a seizure. They found that if a single person witnessed the event, they helped 85% of the time. But if there were 5 bystanders present, that number dropped to a pathetic 31%. The phenomenon is called diffusion of responsibility. When you're in a crowd, your brain's logic gets twisted. You see a crisis and think, "This is bad," but it's immediately followed by, "But there are other people here. Surely someone else is more qualified. Surely someone else has already called for help." Now, put that psychology into the silent steel box of an elevator. You're packed in with 5 other people. Someone clutches their chest and collapses. Your first instinct might be to act, but then you glance at the woman in scrubs. Is she a nurse? You look at the guy in the suit. He looks important. He's probably handling it. In those critical seconds of hesitation, of everyone assuming someone else is the designated hero, nothing gets done. The elevator, this perfectly normal mode of transport, becomes a pressure cooker for our worst social instincts. It's a tiny vertical stage where we rehearse the quiet art of hoping someone else will save the day. You're sitting at your desk. The only sound in the entire office is the gentle hum of the air conditioner and Karen from accounting aggressively typing an email. It is peaceful, it is quiet. And then you feel it, a distinct urgent buzz coming from your pocket. A text, a call, a notification that your online order of 200 googly eyes has finally shipped. You pull out your phone, full of hope and anticipation, and nothing. The screen is black, lifeless. You just experienced a neurological prank. Welcome to the world of phantom vibration syndrome, the most 21st century problem imaginable. It's the feeling that your phone is vibrating when it absolutely is not, and it's not just you. This is a massively common shared hallucination. Don't believe me? Take the work of Dr. Robert Rosenberger, a researcher at Georgia Tech. In a 2012 study, he found that a staggering 90% of college undergraduates experienced phantom vibrations. These weren't people who were sleep-deprived or on some wild trip. They were just people with phones. They'd be in a quiet library, in class, or just walking, and their brain would conjure a fake buzz out of thin air. It got so common that most of them just accepted it as a normal, if slightly annoying, part of life. We've basically become a society of people getting ghosted by our own nervous systems. So what in the world is happening here? It's your brain's pattern recognition system going into overdrive. For the last decade or so, you have trained your brain that a buzzing sensation in your pocket is one of the most important signals in the universe. It means social connection, it means novelty, it means a sweet, sweet hit of dopamine. Your brain loves that buzz. It craves it. So when you're in a quiet place like an office or a classroom, your brain gets bored. It's sitting there, starved for stimulation, and it starts to misinterpret other, completely random signals. The rustle of your shirt, a tiny muscle twitch, the slight rumble of a truck going by outside, your brain intercepts that raw data and, through a process of wishful thinking, translates it into the buzz it wants so badly. It's your brain's version of seeing a face in a cloud. Except, in this case, it's feeling a text message in a butt-cheek muscle spasm. Essentially, your brain has become a hopeful puppy, sitting by the door, thinking every tiny noise is the sound of you coming home with treats. It's not a glitch, really. It's just proof that your own body wants you to be a little less popular for its own sanity. There are certain places that just feel wrong. A deserted parking garage at night, an empty school hallway on a weekend, a concrete stairwell. They are liminal spaces, places that are just a transition from one point to another and not meant to be occupied. And sometimes when you're in one of these places, especially a high one like a balcony or the edge of a rooftop, your brain does something incredibly weird. For a split second, you get an inexplicable, terrifying urge to jump. This is l'appel de vide, a French phrase that translates to the call of the void. It's not a suicidal thought. It's a bizarre, intrusive, and deeply unnerving glitch in your survival instinct. For a long time, people who felt this just kept it to themselves, assuming they were secretly broken. Who would admit to their friends, "Hey, I was on a bridge today, and for a hot second, my brain whispered, yeet." But it turns out this is an incredibly common human experience. In a 2012 study at Florida State University, researchers surveyed 431 students and found that over half of those who had never had suicidal thoughts had experienced the call of the void. They'd be standing somewhere high, perfectly happy and content, and their brain would just offer up the option of swan diving into oblivion. So is your brain secretly trying to kill you? The leading theory says the exact opposite. It's actually your brain trying, in a very dramatic way, to save your life. The process goes something like this. You walk up to a high ledge. Your brain's fast-acting, non-conscious alert system immediately fires off a signal. Danger! Ledge! Big fall! Do not want! It's a primitive, rapid-fire safety alarm. But your slower, more logical conscious brain takes a split second to catch up. In that tiny gap, your conscious brain detects this massive "whoa, back up" signal, but it doesn't immediately know why it was sent. So it scrambles for an explanation. I just got a huge internal "don't fall" signal. Why would I get that unless I wanted to jump? The call of the void isn't the urge to die. It's the conscious misinterpretation of the overwhelming urge to live. It's your brain's internal monologue being so loud about staying safe that it accidentally sounds like the opposite. It's your internal safety system throwing a fire alarm, and your conscious mind thinking, maybe I should start a fire. It's the ultimate proof that your brain is just a panicky, over-the-top drama queen that has to simulate your potential death just to remind you to take a step back from the curb. Picture the scene. You're in a massive college lecture hall, packed with 200 other students. You're walking up the steep stairs to find a seat, and it happens. You catch your toe, and for a glorious, slow-motion second, you flail like one of those wacky inflatable tube men before face-planting on the steps. A wave of heat washes over your body. You just know that every single one of the 400 eyeballs in that room is locked onto you, judging your very soul. You might as well just drop out and go live in a cave. This feeling of being the star of everyone else's show, especially when you mess up, is a psychological phenomenon so common it has its own name, the spotlight effect. The term was coined by psychologist Thomas Gilovich and his team, who were fascinated by how much we overestimate our own social significance. To prove it, they designed a beautifully simple and evil experiment in 2000. They took a group of college students and made one of them do something mortifying: wear a deeply, deeply uncool t-shirt. We're talking a giant, cheesy picture of the singer Barry Manilow. They then had the student walk into a room where other students were filling out questionnaires. After the student left, the researchers asked them a simple question. Out of everyone in that room, how many people do you think noticed your amazing shirt? Then they asked the observers what they saw. The results were exactly what you'd expect. The person wearing the shirt was convinced that at least half the room had noticed and was mocking their taste in 70s soft rock legends. The reality? Less than a quarter of the people in the room even registered the shirt. Most hadn't even looked up. The student felt like they were under a giant blazing spotlight, but in reality, they were barely a blip on anyone's radar. This happens because we are all the main character in our own movie. Our brain is hardwired to experience the world from a first-person perspective, so we fundamentally struggle to accept that other people aren't experiencing it the same way. You are acutely aware of your own weird sneeze, your coffee stain, your awkward comment in a meeting. But you fail to realize that everyone else is just as trapped inside their own heads, worrying about their weird sneeze, their coffee stain, and the dumb thing they said 5 minutes ago. The spotlight isn't real, it's a projection. So next time you trip in public, remember the Barry Manilow shirt. Take comfort in the fact that most people are too busy with their own internal chaos to even notice yours. The waiting room is a special kind of purgatory. It doesn't matter if it's at the DMV, a doctor's office, or a Jiffy Lube. The moment you sit down in one of those plastic, vaguely sticky chairs, time itself begins to warp. A 5-minute wait feels like a geologic era. You watch the second hand on the wall clock, and you could swear it's moving backward. Meanwhile, you can spend 2 hours scrolling through videos of cats falling off furniture, and it feels like 30 seconds. This isn't just impatience. This is a fundamental breakdown in your brain's ability to perceive reality. This is your chronoception getting absolutely wrecked. Chronoception is our subjective experience of time, and it's less like a precise Swiss watch and more like a melted clock in a Salvador Dali painting. The perfect case study for this isn't just about boredom. It's about anxiety, specifically the phenomenon of white coat hypertension. Doctors noticed this for years. A patient would have perfectly normal blood pressure at home, but the second they sat down in the clinical environment of a doctor's office, their reading would shoot up. A study way back in 1988 finally gave it a name and confirmed it. The mere presence in a medical setting was causing a real physiological stress response. The waiting room itself was making people sick with anxiety. This anxiety is the secret ingredient that slows down time. Your brain's perception of time is deeply linked to your emotional state. When you're anxious or afraid, say, waiting to find out if that weird noise your car is making will cost $50 or your entire life savings, your brain kicks into a higher gear. Specifically, a part of your brain called the amygdala, your threat detection center, becomes more active. This heightened state of alert makes you process your surroundings and your own internal feelings with much more detail and frequency. Your brain is essentially taking more mental snapshots per second. So when you look back on that period of waiting, your brain has a much thicker folder of the moments to review, making the duration feel longer. So that 5 minutes in the waiting room feels longer because, neurologically speaking, more happen. More internal monitoring, more anxiety, more noticing the weird stain on the carpet. You're not just waiting. You're in a low-grade, high-alert state of dread, and it stretches time like taffy. It's a place designed to make you wait, which makes you anxious, which makes the wait feel even longer. The only escape is trying to decipher a 15-year-old copy of Highlights magazine, which is its own special kind of psychological torture. Imagine you get home after a long day. You unlock your front door, walk into your living room, and you freeze. That's your couch. That's your lamp. That's the same pile of mail you've been ignoring for a week. You recognize every object on a logical level, but the feeling, the deep instinctual feeling of familiarity, is gone. The room feels like a perfect, sterile replica of your home. It's a movie set, and you are a trespasser. This profoundly unsettling experience has a name. It's the evil twin of déjà vu. It's called jamais vu, which is French for never seen. While severe chronic cases of jamais vu are often linked to neurological conditions like temporal lobe epilepsy, where patients can suddenly fail to recognize their own spouse or children, A temporary version can happen to anyone. The most relatable and easily proven example is a phenomenon called semantic satiation. You can actually induce a mini bout of jamais vu right now. Pick a word, any word. Spoon, for instance. Now, say it out loud over and over again for about 30 seconds. Spoon, 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 spoon. Notice what happens? The word starts to break down. It detaches from its meaning and becomes just a strange, clumsy mouth sound. The link between the word spoon and the metal object you stir your coffee with is temporarily severed. That is jamais vu in miniature. This was first described in detail in a 1962 dissertation by a psychologist named Leon Jakobovich James. He found that this repetition caused a specific neural pattern in the brain to get fatigued, essentially making it fire less and less effectively until the meaning just evaporates. The same glitch can happen momentarily with complex scenes. Your brain is a hyper-efficient filing system. When you look at your living room, it doesn't reanalyze every single detail every time. It just pulls up the file labeled living room familiar. But every once in a while, that connection can misfire. The system that processes the visual data works fine, but the system that slaps the familiarity emotional connection tag on it takes a coffee break. For a brief, terrifying moment, you see the raw data without the emotional context. You see your home not as your home, but as an arrangement of furniture in a room. It's a reminder that the feeling of home isn't in the objects themselves, but is an incredibly fragile layer of perception painted on by your own brain, a layer that can apparently peel right off without warning. You're walking home. To your right, there's a small city park. It's daytime. It's a lovely collection of trees, benches, and a playground. At night, it becomes something else entirely. It's a pit of blackness. And as you walk past, you can't help but glance into the shadows. And you see it. A figure standing by a tree. Your heart jackhammers in your chest. You look again, and oh, it's just two bushes and a weirdly shaped trash can. You laugh it off, but the fear was very, very real. That moment of terror was brought to you by pareidolia, and it's one of our oldest and most important survival skills. Pareidolia is the tendency to see patterns, especially faces and human figures, in random or ambiguous stimuli. It's why you see a man in the moon, a face in your burnt toast, or a monster in the dark. To understand why this happens, we can tell a little evolutionary story. Imagine two of our ancient ancestors, Ugg and Oog, chilling by the prehistoric water cooler. They hear a rustle in a nearby thicket of tall grass. Ugg, a staunch realist, sees only grass. Oog, whose brain is a hyperactive pattern-finding machine, sees the vague, shifting shape of a crouching, saber-toothed tiger. Now, 99 times out of 100, Oog is wrong. It's just the wind, and Ugg laughs at him for being so jumpy. But that one time it is a tiger, Ugg gets turned into a furry chew toy, and Oog runs away, survives, and passes on his paranoid, pattern-seeking genes. We are the descendants of Oog. Our brains did not evolve for accuracy. They evolved for survival. In the "is that a predator or a weird shadow" game, the cost of a false positive, thinking a shadow is a predator, is a little bit of adrenaline and maybe some embarrassment. The cost of a false negative, thinking a predator is a shadow, is getting removed from the gene pool in a very messy way. So, natural selection built us brains that are designed to find figures in the noise, especially in low-light conditions where data is scarce. When you look into a dark park, your eyes aren't sending clear information to your brain. Your brain, in its infinite and terrified wisdom, takes that garbled, low-res data and fills in the blanks with the scariest, most relevant thing it can think of, another person or a predator. So no, you're not seeing ghosts. You're just operating a finely tuned piece of biological hardware that is still convinced you're about to be eaten by a cave lion, which, when you're all alone on a dark street, is somehow way less comforting. And that's our list of perfectly normal places your brain is not equipped to handle. So the next time you feel weird in a supermarket or get a phantom text, just know that you're not broken. You're just a beautifully flawed biological machine running on ancient, glitchy software. If you enjoy feeding your algorithm this brand of delightful nonsense, you know the drill. That subscribe button isn't going to click itself.